Are you a little nervous about your Dodgers?
That's part for the course, but this is
Yeah.
why you push the chips in, because the thing is, again, to go back to where we just left at, just because you go out there and win 100 games and then you're like, oh, but we need to make sure we stay competitive, does not mean you're guaranteed to win a championship. A lot of Yankees fans complain about why don't we have a farm system. The same fan is now complaining about we need to go push the chips in. There's a big free agent. You can't do both.
Kind of core four era. Everything kind of aligned when they were winning those World Series in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it's almost like you can't have that perfect mix anymore. You have to go one road or the other.
Welcome back to Cinco Squad, episode 132. It's a little different here just because Hurricane Milton is disrupting us. We're missing our fourth member because of the storm, and we want to give our thoughts and prayers out to all the families that have been affected by Helene and Milton, because they, obviously you can't plan for this, but you can prepare for it, right? So hopefully everyone got out of Tampa that did, and whoever's in Tampa is staying safe. We're hoping the best for everyone. Jake, unfortunately, is having some power issues, so he cannot be a part of this show, but he's with us in thought. But as we continue with this show, I'm Jonathan Sawyer. With me is my brother, Mike DeSanto. He evacuated to Miami, and we decided to let's go to a Panthers game last time, and we got Trey Day. MLB playoffs are right in the midst of it. We're gonna have an ALCS and LCS coming soon, but the biggest question is, there's been a lot of bullpen games, a lot of aces. Do you need an ace to survive the playoffs? Trey Day?
In this generation, no, because the game has changed all to analytics. So now people are saying, okay, we got this guy in. I know he still looks like he has something left in the tank, but let's yank him out at the 3 innings, because now we got to play the bullpen game and play analytics. So since everybody's doing it, I would say no. Now, I would say as a side note, I do miss everybody having the ace. I was actually discussing this with some folks earlier, because I missed the days when, like, it was Randy Johnson, it was Kurt Schilling, and they were going against the Yankees, and it's like, all right, we got these 2 R's, we have to win on these games, we have to keep dragging them out. Or CC Sabathia, when he just was going out there, and they're like, throw him out there, I don't care, put CC out there 7 days in a row. He can do it. Like, it was something heroic about that. And it's great that it's a team game. Now they're doing all bullpen by committee. But it was something about that hero ball. I mean, that's what we'd love to see, is that triumphant thing where, like, Kurt Schilling's bleeding on the mound and he's gutting it through. And, I feel like we've kind of lost that moment in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing I keep saying is, like, a lot of these pitchers are prima donnas, in my opinion, because a lot of them are not going – they're getting pulled after 5 innings. Now, if you're a Garrett Cole, you're not going to get pulled, right? Like, you're going to go until the wheels fall off at the end of the day. But I hate this bullshit. Oh, we got to get 5 days rest bullshit. No, it's the playoffs. I remember Madison Bumgarner was pitching off 2 days rest, even 1 day's rest, said, I'm good to go. This is what you pay these guys for, is $40 million a year, $50 million a year, to go out there in the playoffs. 162 games, fine, whatever. You want to pitch, have a 20-5 record, but you go out and you basically flop in the playoffs, and you have a 7 ERA, and you can't do shit. You are useless to my team at this point. Yeah, you're useful during the season to sell tickets and everything, but you're not useful to me right now in the playoffs, and you can't pitch. Do I think that you need an ace? No. To your point, Trey, is the fact that there's not. The game has changed so much now. Now you have 12 relief pitchers in there, and they're just rotating them all the time. And sometimes they have bullpen games. And a lot of times you don't really need an ace in order to win a World Series. I mean, you look at the Texas Rangers last year. They had one guy, Evaldi, who was their ace, and the rest was kind of pieced together. Montgomery was a bullpen guy with the Yankees at one point and ended up being a starter. It was just a bunch of pieces put together to win themselves a World Series. So you don't need it. I do miss those days just because you miss the pitching duel going into the 8th inning, and then all of a sudden you see 2 guys, duke it out for 8 innings, and it's like, oh shit, look at this. Or Roy Halladay's no-hitter in the playoffs, 12 years ago. It was amazing. It was great times, and it's always fun to see. So do I miss it? Yes. Do I think these pitchers are catered? Yeah, 100%, just because they're paid so much now that you're not going to see these guys go and go because they're throwing a lot harder. They have more injury. But this is what you say. If I say, okay, Garrett Cole won me 2 World Series, but he got hurt the rest of the time, then it was a success. Right now, it's not a success. No, There's been not one ring on the finger. It hasn't been one since 2009. So something's got to change with this because I think the pitchers need to step up, and I think a lot of them do.
Yeah, I think you don't need an ace anymore. You need a good pitching staff. You need to have good pitchers. I also miss those times an ace, but it's not just the money that's doing it. It's also the years on these contracts. The fact that guys are now getting single contracts that are 7, 8, 9, 10 years in duration. So they're not going to push them because they want not only the money's worth, but they want the year's worth. And I think a common misconception with that Madison Bumgarner pick, because I don't believe this, but is that he was never the same after that playoff run. He was really good for the Giants after that. You can say never the same. It's hard to duplicate what he did that season, especially in those playoffs. So I would love to see pitchers get pushed more, love to see guys be able to emerge in the playoffs as new aces, because you can get that. You can get a guy that steps up in the playoffs and all of a sudden he can be a reliable pitcher just when he gets the opportunity. But people aren't going to get the opportunity anymore.
For me, but maybe this may seem different to y'all, I'm of the mindset, and I get what you're saying, Mike, because I do believe that's what's happening with the, okay, we got a 10-year deal, we got to preserve this guy. But I've always been in the mindset of, you got to win a championship when you got a time to win it. If you sit out here and say, all right, I'm going to wait 3 years, I got to make sure I can preserve him, get 6 years. No, win one and take the guarantee. Because I look at, for example, the Indians at the time, Guardians now. Corey Kluber, I remember he was the last guy left because everybody got hurt. Cookie Carrasco gets hurt. Trevor Bauer goes out and plays with a drone with his dumbass and injures his hand and ends up getting hurt. And Kluber ends up running something to the ground. By game 7, they're playing the Cubs. They end up losing. But they almost won that game. And if they would have won, that would have meant so much more to his career, his Hall of Fame case, the city of Cleveland, everybody in there. But instead, if this was current day, they would have never let that happen. The Guardians probably still lose, and you get nothing out of it. It's not guaranteed you're going to make it back to a championship, but these teams are so hell-bent on, well, we got 7 years, so let's pull up just in case. And it's like, no, you might not make the playoffs next year. You better go out there and win when you got a shot. And that, to me, is like flagrant misconduct by a lot of these GMs, the guys at the top that run these organizations doing that.
Well, the problem is a lot of the time what happened is now these contracts are now so substantial, but they're not only substantial, they're long too, right? You're giving these guys 12, 13-year deals at age 21, and you're expected these guys at one point win a championship. Like if I'm the Dodgers, you're Dodgers, I just gave a guy $700 million. I better have 5 to 6 championships, and I better be in contention every single year, which the Dodgers normally are. But he better be effective like he is every single year. And the realism behind the whole thing is he's not. He's not going to be effective. He's not going to pitch past, I think, 2025. He's not going to pitch that much. And that's the thing with Shohei is like you're giving this guy all this money, and yes, he's DHing. But that's all he's doing is DHing. And I'm not discrediting that. Like he eventually probably will play first base or play the field. But when you give these guys these long contracts, that's where I think the relaxation comes in. It's like, I know you want to win a championship. Like, I know Aaron Judge wants to win a championship. But I also know he wants to set himself up for longevity. And that's what a lot of these guys want to do because a lot of them get bounced around. They have a bad season. They start going around. It's just different, right? So I feel that with baseball, it just needs to – in order for you to have an ace back, you need to kind of go back to those 4 to 5 year deals. And I think they're starting to move that way just based on, like, the last set of pitchers – that like Rodon and Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery, they're now getting 5 to 6 year deals or 1 year deals to prove it contracts like, hey, do it again. Hey, do it again. Because they give it to DeGrom, they give it to Verlander, they give it to all these guys, and they're not panning out. So it's not in their favor to go pay a pitcher 10 years, $40 million a year because you may play 3 years of that whole entire deal. Look at the Mets. They're eating that contract from DeGrom, and they have nothing to prove from it. So when I look at pitchers, I think baseball just needs to kind of like lock in. Let your guys go. If they're healthy, let them roll. If they're good, let them go. Stop playing this analytic bullshit. And I'm so tired of hearing about the analytics. I think you need analytics in baseball, but I also think you need that feel in baseball to kind of get yourself in there. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But the MLB playoffs are in full swing right now. Trey, are you a little nervous about your Dodgers? I just want to hear your side on the Dodgers side and the Guardians. The Guardians and Dodgers are both your teams. Are you a little bit nervous about the Dodgers kind of like having the great season that they did, and then kind of like what's wrong with
I
San
mean, it's
Diego?
par for the course. But this is
Yeah,
why you push the chips in, because the thing is, again, to go back to where we just left at, just because you go out there and win 100 games and then you're like, oh, but we need to make sure we stay competitive, does not mean you're guaranteed to win a championship. All these times Dodgers keep going NLCS, World Series, even a divisional round, and they don't have anything. They got a year to show for it, essentially.
yeah.
So what good would it have done to let's say, and they didn't do it with Kershaw, but let's say they would have preserved Kershaw at the time. They would have won the championship to show for it. So what would have been the point? Just to say I kept making it to the NLCS, that's crazy to me. That's why I don't like that. It's bad. And I get them a little, and this is a different sport, but Rams, same thing in LA. You know what the Rams did? Eventually they said, we're going to push the chips in. We're going to trade all these picks. And yeah, they are paying for it now, but at least they can say they got a championship out of it. Because how many teams didn't put the chips in when stuff got real? Because in baseball, you want to pull your pitchers out and play. So, all right, well, I know the analytics say it's 3 innings. No, that guy is hot. Leave him in there until he looks like he's about to falter. If this guy is pitched on a normal 6, 7 innings, why are you pulling him at the 3? Why are we playing this different? Go with the horses that got you there. So it goes back to the same thing with that. I'm not shocked with the Dodgers because this is what the Dodgers do is par for the course. I'm not shocked necessarily with the Guardians because even though they don't, the stories the Tigers have this $18 million payroll, it's not like the Guardians are sitting here with this crazy payroll either. And this, basically crazy set of a bunch of all-stars. I mean, yeah, the bullpen was strong, but I mean, what good did that do? I guess that goes back to our first point about does it matter if you have an ace? Because the Guardians basically said we're just going to go off this bullpen. Look
Guardians are
where
one. I mean, I'll give Cleveland some credit. They're one of probably most consistent teams over the last 20, 25 years. They consistently make the playoffs when you don't expect them to, and they consistently play good down the stretch. They never won, right? Obviously, they never made it to the World Series, other than 16. But they've done it. They've done it with a lesser payroll. They have not really, and they built their farm system around it, which I got to give it credit to. I mean, they've done it, and I wish the Yankees had the same type of success without the pressure. At least, I mean, you're gonna have the
but
Yankees.
the Yankees can't do that. The
Yeah,
Yankees
because
are,
they have the biggest payroll.
Right.
which is why they can never do that. Because at the end
Yeah,
of the day, what happens? We build a farm system, we hand y'all the player, and then we go back to the drawing board. I mean, I
right.
give you a list of them that actually came literally from the Guardians to the Yankees. So y'all are never going to have so much of a farm system because this is not the nature of the organization. I don't even think the fans would allow the fans could. It's funny, and I'll let Mike speak on this. I see a lot of Yankees fans complain about why don't we have a farm system. The same fan is now complaining about we need to go put the chips in. There's a big free agent. You can't do both, or we need to go put the chips in, trade everything, and go get this stuff. You can't live both worlds. You got to pick one way or the other. The Guardians have no choice. The Dodgers and Yankees, they took a certain route. It's the other way. You can win both ways, but you got to pick a side of which way you want to go about this.
Well, I think from a Yankees fan's perspective, I think where that thought process comes from, where the kind of like double-sided thing comes from, where they complain about, not having a farm system, but then complain about not going to get the stars because they're the Yankees, is really because everything, especially in 1998, but that whole kind of core 4 era, everything kind of aligned when they were winning those World Series in the late 90s, early 2000s, in the sense of they had a farm system where they had Jeter and Pettit and Posada and, all those guys and Mo. And then they went out and got top players. They went and traded for Tino Martinez. They went and got, they had signed John Wetland. They went and got Scott Brocious. They went and got, they got the pieces they needed through free agency and trades as well. But that's just not how it works anymore, especially when you have more and more teams like the Guardians and like the Rays that are solely developing the farm system and, yes, eventually trade their stars. But it's a longer-term process, and they're not necessarily letting certain guys get to market anymore. So you can't – it's almost like you can't have that perfect mix anymore. You have to go one road or the other. And so because the Yankees and Dodgers, like you said, have – such a high payroll and have committed to such high payrolls, their route is clearly marked for them that they go out and those stars that do make to market, they go and get them. Or the guys that do hit the trade block, they go and get them. And now we look at the international stars, where, yes, the Angels got Ohtani first, the Dodgers went out and paid him. Yamamoto, the Dodgers went out and paid him. Back at the Yankees, Matsui, Yankees went out and paid him. Hideki Irabu, Kagawa, though they did not work out as well as they expected, they went out and got them. So I think it is tough. It's a tough situation where you have to pick one path or the other. And I will give the Guardians credit because I think they do what the Rays try to do, but with more success offensively, and that's what helps them.
But I kind of disagree with that because, like, the Yankees have built up their farm system, and that's the problem with a lot of these bigger teams. They build up their farm system. We keep hearing about these big guys and they're having good times, and then all of a sudden they're not putting them on the roster and they're not playing them. And you got guys like Stanton who's still sitting in the lineup striking out 750 times this season, and it's like, God damn, man, like, why can't we just have an athletic guy? And I've heard today that they're not putting Stanton in, they're not allowing Stanton to run at full speed. They don't want him to run at full speed. Well, this is the goddamn playoffs, man. If he's not going to run at full speed, try to beat out a grounder that's a diving stop at short, then why are we playing him? Why are you playing these guys? And I get it, you're paying $30 million a year or 40 or whatever, but, like, you're trying to win. What is the goal here? A championship or what's the goal here? Like, is it your goal to keep him healthy, or is it a goal to potentially have one home run a playoff for him? I don't agree with it. I don't agree with that the Yankees don't have a good farm, because they do. They talk about these guys all the time. And, hey, we got the number 2, number 4, number 6, number 8 prospect, and yet you don't see them for 10 years. And I get it takes time for those guys to see the field, but then you continue to call these guys up and send them down, and call them up and send them down, call them up, send them down. How's the guy supposed to have consistency if he's never getting in the lineup? It's one of my
But
biggest.
that's where the problem is with paying Stanton, because they're
Right.
not going to up there. So it is. You did pick a side, even if the farm system there, because the side you picked was Stanton. So the side still was picked.
Yeah.
The payroll guy,
Right.
who probably isn't as good as homeboy, down the minors, but the side was picked. They decided, because I guess when you put it that way, they could have just not paid Stanton, had all these guys up, and still had extra cherry pieces right now, or had extra money to go do something. Maybe y'all would have had Otani. Maybe y'all had the money to go spend on him instead. But they felt at the time they need to put the chips in for Stanton, and then later didn't have the money to go throw $700 million on Otani.
Well, that, and to speak to Stanton as an example in particular, the way the path has worked out is, yes, they have all these good prospects, and some of them end up coming up and making the team, but a lot of them are being developed simply to be moved. Like, they moved prospects for Stanton. They developed pitching prospects. They moved them for Soto. So a lot of these guys,
what you'll see.
Yeah,
because it's the same thing in football. You have the quarterback, and you say, all right, I don't want to go out here if I want to trade this piece and show that he might not be as good or risk injury or anything like that. So they'll leave him down the minors, because you keep saying, well, I got the number 2, 4, and 6 prospect. And then what they'll do is they'll come out here later, then they'll go trade him for, I don't know, fill in the blank of wherever to start. I don't know, maybe years from now, Paul Skeens is up, and y'all say, well, we got 2, 4, 6, 8, and the Skeens up. Now we'll trade Phillips. So y'all still are taking a side,
Yeah, and it's always going to be like that when you got a payroll the size. And that's the thing with baseball too, that I never feel bad for it, because you don't have a salary cap, so pay the guys. Number one, you can do it. Stop being cheap.
Yeah,
you're gonna make your freaking money back. Look at that stadium; it's always packed. It's the Yankees. You're always and Steinbrenner always comes out and says, "Oh, I'm not gonna spend this much money." Blah, 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 blah. You're packing the freaking stands. You're going to make your money back. Stop worrying about all that bullshit. Baseball still needs to get better with their scheduling. I understand that you're trying to make it exciting with 4 games on one day. I understand that when you want to start the baseball season or baseball playoffs, to have 4 games to really excite it and get it going. But when you get in the middle of the DS and you have 4 games that are potentially 2 elimination games and 2 that are tied at 1, you split it up. Especially on a day like Tuesday and Wednesday, when there's no football or really any big football going on. It's your day to shine. You want to have these exciting games. You want to have the Phillies and Mets playing at 7:30 in an elimination game, not 5 o'clock when people are just getting out of work or not being able to get out of work, or for Detroit and Cleveland playing at 3 o'clock when most people have to work. It's just not smart in this sense, because you're pushing all these games into one, and there's no rush. There is zero rush right now. So MLB still has to do better. MLB Playoffs is exciting as ever, but let's do better with the scheduling as we get deeper into the playoffs. But as we continue through the playoffs are always the biggest time of the year for a lot of sports, and it's ramping up time. It's You're down to 8. You're down to 4. You're down to whatever, how many in each playoff. I feel like it keeps expanding for every league. But which sport has the biggest jump from regular season to playoffs? Mike?
Yeah, so I kind of went back and forth with a few sports because obviously playoff sports is always more exciting than the regular season in general. But I think it is baseball, and it's simply because baseball has the longest regular season. So we are waiting so long, and we fall into lulls during the season of like, where it's June and July, and yeah, you have the All-Star break, which has some fun stuff, but it's like, okay, but we've still got half a season to go. But then all of a sudden, it's like after 162 games, we suddenly hit like, oh, this is it. Okay, these are the last like 16 games, or last like 20 games for all these teams. So now there all of a sudden is a sense of urgency with the players, with the fans, with the organization to, all right, this is it. We made the playoffs. This is it. As opposed to, 82 games for basketball and hockey, but at the same time, basketball, especially hockey's always intense. Like, the games are always intense. I mean, you have guys, it's full of checking and hitting and things like that. NFL is always intense. Plus, it's like a sprint. It's of all the sports, NFL is the most sprint of all of them because you've only got 17, now used to be 16, now 17 games to be able to secure your playoff spot. So a bad start is much worse than in any other sport. And NBA is what it is, but I really think baseball jumps up a couple, at least 2-3 notches, if not more, going into the playoffs because all of a sudden it becomes the final countdown to the end of the year.
No, I think it's basketball. It's basketball. And the
Yeah.
reason it's basketball, and it's basketball in general. So whether you go college or NBA, college because it goes to the single elimination tournament, so that turns to a different intensity when you basically now say, okay, I lose. If I lose, I'm completely out. The reason it's the NBA is because think about what do people bitch about the NBA? Load management. Playoffs, load management doesn't exist. What do people say? They're not playing enough defense. Defense suddenly becomes more of a factor when they get to the playoffs. Then you look at even coaching. People coach during the season, but they're not really. I ain't trying to knock that shit to coach in the NBA, but don't get me wrong. They're not 100% the coach till they get to the series because you don't really get to scout an opponent. One day you're in Atlanta, next day in Chicago, next day in Indiana. But once you get to the playoffs, now it's series. See, baseball is used to playing on series, so it's still somewhat of a simulation of the same sport over and over again, where you go play the same team 3 days in a row. NBA's not used to that. So now your coach even has to do his job. I could argue half these coaches are coaching during the season in the NBA because just don't lose. Occasionally throw your right guy out there. Occasionally, but having a coach is a playing father during the season. We're just trying to make sure these guys don't kill each other when we make it to the playoffs. But once the playoffs goes, I've even heard a lot of basketball players say the intensity level of one NBA playoff game is like playing 2 games because everybody's like on a full sprint the entire time. Even the physicality changes, the just the up and down pace, the less foul calls, the refs ref it different. Like everything about basketball changes to me once you get to the playoffs. Baseball, no doubt, is definitely more intense, and it does have this like calm in the air before every pitch where you're like, you feel like it's do or die. And I will say that's true, but I just think literally every aspect in basketball turns into a different game when it gets to the NBA playoffs.
It's the NHL. It's not even close. NHL is the best playoffs in sports.
Wait.
I've
The
watched.
question: the best playoffs or who changed their intensity most?
The intensity level changes.
I don't think
And that's what I was
level
going
changed.
with it.
No, the reason I don't think, and that real quick before you go, I don't think intensity level changed them is because to Mike's point, I think y'all are actually intense all year, which is why I would never say, which is why actually I'm going to compliment your NHL and insult the other sports, which is why I think you're absolutely wrong because they actually are smacking heads tonight. Everybody else ain't doing that in game one. I guarantee somebody else is fighting during game one of the NHL because they actually seem to give a fuck more than most people throughout the rest of the season. So I actually would say no, their intensity doesn't change because game 40 of the NHL looks more closer to the end because them dudes is always on tip. That ain't the same.
And that was what I was going to make that point is the fact that from game 1 to game 82, it's intense all the way. But once you step on that ice and you got to play a series, it intensifies. And I don't know how to explain it other than that it intensifies. And when you're in that arena, it's just a different feel. When you're in it, I've been in different playoff arenas when it comes to baseball, NBA, NFL, college football. I've been in all of them, and it's just a different feel when you step inside that arena when it's game one of let's just say the first round of this NHL playoffs. It's just a different feel. It's a different feel for me when I feel it during that time. I feel like it's just the intensity is just a little bit higher because of that intensity.
But are you comparing?
Because you're going hard every single game. Because you're putting everything on the line every single time, and you see these guys continuously every single game put that up there. That you just are like, oh shit, this guy was like the top player in the league. Like we're seeing him like intensify it as he goes into the play. He's got another level. How could he have another level? Like, how is that possible?
But that's why I think it depends on what question you're asking. If you say what was the most intense, I think you could be completely right. But what the question was is who has the biggest difference from their regular season to the playoffs, which is why I said that would be wrong because I do feel the NHL is actually the most intense sport on a consistent basis. So basically what I'm saying is if I'm consistently intense, I can't say it's a bigger gap. If you're basically saying they always go 100, okay, they go to 105. What I'm basically admittedly saying, even me being a bigger NBA fan, is them dudes went from 50 to 100. I'm saying your NHL guys were from 95 to 100. So the question was, who had the biggest gap? That's why the NHL can't be right.
Okay, well, I misunderstood the question then.
Yeah,
I didn't.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm actually giving NHL more compliment for saying they actually are the one sport who I feel like them in the NFL are the two sports that I feel are always ain't no half. Them are the two sports most likely to really get fucked up and hurt. So them are the two sports where ain't no half-assing. Whereas MLB, yeah, dude, be like fucking, I'm gonna drink a beer. It's game 40. NBA, dude, like we got LeBron. He's like, I'm gonna drink wine. Then it gets to the playoffs. LeBron's like, man, playoff LeBron different. Playoff Sidney Crosby still looks like Sidney Crosby in the season because Sidney Crosby's season still turned up. Playoff LeBron.
Then to that point, it is the NBA. When I think about it, like I misunderstood the question. I thought you meant intensity. I thought the question was about intensity.
No,
this is coming from the host that's reading the fucking question. So
unfortunately,
I do my goddamn homework.
Yeah, unfortunately, Jay's not here. This is originally a thought Jay had. For the viewers, this originally was a thought Jay had. And Jay was saying nothing feels more intense than, or nothing feels more of a level up than watching playoff baseball after watching the season, which is why we say, okay, so who has the biggest gap from what we're used to seeing all season to the playoff version of the same sport?
I would say I would agree with you on the NBA because when we think about it like that, the NBA, because you do have that load management, you're not having players play every night, you're not having the intensified games, and I've been watching the NBA a lot more over the last maybe 5 to 10, probably 10, 15 years now, and each year it just seems like okay, we're like pulling each other into the freaking come on, let's go into the playoffs, and then it's like boom. And then you're just getting LeBron playing 35, 40, 35, 10, and 15. It's like, what the where'd that?
And he might be playing all 48.
And he's playing all 48, and he's not even taking a break. He's not even getting a breath. And so when baseball, I have to disagree with Mike on that because to the fact of it taking a jump, it's slowed down. Number one, because teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees, who are the best team in baseball, predominantly the last 10 years, every single year, shit the bed, and it's like how do you shit the bed after being that? And I guess the way you're thinking about it, the intensity is the guys like the Detroit Tigers, the Kansas City Royals, teams like that who aren't really in the mix all the time, and they pop out. Like I don't see baseball being intensity, and mostly it's because of baseball's problem. And baseball is the problem behind their marketing is terrible. I didn't hear a playoff commercial until the day before the playoffs. Mm-hmm. I didn't see your scheduling is terrible. You want to schedule 4 games on the first day, that's fine by me. You want to schedule 4 games on the ALD. Mike and I just had a conversation about this, Trey. And the fact is he was saying, I wish they played all 4 games today. And I said, absolutely not. MLB fucked up. You should have had 2 games today. If you had elimination games today, they should have been at 7 and 9 o'clock. That is when people are going to watch on a Tuesday and Wednesday when there's not a lot of football on, not good football at least, and your viewership would have went up. You got the Mets and playing the Phillies at 5 p.m. on a Wednesday.
You remember I said that 2 weeks ago in the show. I said Tuesday, Wednesday are the target dates. We really want eyes because.
And now you're playing the elimination game in 2 of the biggest markets, right? Philadelphia and New York, the Mets and the Phillies, rivals, and you're playing them at 5 o'clock. Now, granted, people are getting out of work, but they're just getting out of work, right? Obviously, in Florida, we're dealing with the hurricane, but the rest of the country. But in California, if you really want to watch that game, you're still at work till three more hours, right? And so I disagree with the fact that baseball takes the biggest jump just because they don't want to take the biggest jump. They don't want to intensify it because it used to be where you're playing games at night and you're going home. I get to go home from school, watch Boston and Yankees play in the ALCS, and I'm watching that game at 7 o'clock at night, not 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You know what I mean? So I just feel that, to answer the question, the NBA definitely takes the biggest jump when it comes to just the way they kind of just finally start to. It's like, okay, now we're seeing real bats. Okay, now we're seeing Steph Curry guard someone. Now we're seeing, LeBron is kind of 100. LeBron is an outlier, right? He kind of goes hard every single night. But now we're seeing like guys like Edwards always goes tough. And like that's why like a lot of people are like he's got to stop going tough. He's like, why? I'm playing basketball. Like I'm gonna go. Like I love that attitude because I want to see you play hard from game 1 to 82. And I get it's a long season, and I've never done it, and I can't talk to that. And it's injuries and money and everything plays into a factor. But yeah, it's definitely that. But I guess I just don't read and pay attention. So intensify the question.
Oh no, like I said, it's funny you answer that way. Like I said,
Trey's like, hold on, man, you're not answering the question.
No, because I was like, I'm not hitting on hockey. I'm actually complimenting, but that's why they literally are not allowed this discussion.
He's like, wait, you're not answering the question, bro.
The thing is, like I said, you're not wrong though. You're not wrong about hockey. Like it is like 100% all the time, which is makes it very, very fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was completely a compliment to hockey. That's why they're not allowed this discussion because they're too consistently going hard to be a discussion of turning up when you always turn. It's like saying Little John is saying who turns up. Like, well, that dude's always yelling.
But is he consistent, right?
He's consistent.
I'm really sick and tired of having to ask every week what a catch in football is. Can we just figure this out so that we don't have to question whether they dropped it or whether they maintained possession, made a football move, completed the process of the catch? Just figure out what the hell a catch is and decide it. College, NFL, one decision on what constitutes a catch versus not a catch. What is this process that we're making up as we go along? Because every week, I swear, in every game, we have to question whether a running back or receiver or tight end actually caught the ball. So, for the love of God, NCAA, NFL, anybody that has to do with these rules, figure it out.
As we continue with the consistency, we got college football in the midst. We got upsets every single week. Last week was just like, what the hell happened? I know. like SEC basically just said, I'm going to take a week off from the top guys. I'm going to let Vandy get some wins. I'm going to let Mississippi State get a win. But which college football team has the most to lose this week? As we have a 12-team playoff, guys, we still have a lot of room, but it's narrowing, right? That window that you're talking about, Trey, from the beginning is starting to narrow. Which team has the most to lose this week in the top 12? Or whenever?
Are we saying top 12? We just saying I guess the approach I took was just kind of looking more at the big games here. I think the team with the most to lose this week is LSU. Actually, the reason I say LSU. Because, so first off, you got Brian Kelly. He's not a likable guy. It ain't going to take that much for his fan base to eventually flip on him if they don't start, getting their shit together. They already got a loss on the schedule. If they lose at this point, you still got Bama, you still got Oklahoma. Their margin is starting to get quickly thin, and eventually the fans are going to quickly get tired of his stuff. Plus, you're playing in the SEC, which is already going to be tight. And then, like I said Alabama and Oklahoma, but trust and believe it's the SEC. There's going to be a couple other games that might get sketchy just because, look, Alabama at the Vandy was going to be sketchy, but here we are. So there are going to be other sketchy ones. And it's one thing, like when James Franklin, people seem to always like him, so like he can get away with this shit, like bad games. People don't fuck with Brian Kelly like that. He can't get away with going out here and not getting this shit together in the next couple of years because it's going to get real hot on that seat for him.
Yeah, so, LSU was one of my top picks, but I think they still have some games in the SEC, and with being in the SEC, you're going to have the opportunity to still have that leg over someone. I think the team that has the most to lose is Clemson this weekend. They're going to Wake Forest, and they don't have a lot of games left. They got Pitt It's the only ranked team left. And then they got Louisville. Louisville kind of had a bad loss this past or 2 weeks ago. And Clemson has not looked like Clemson, right? We have all said this all year. They have not looked like they're number 10 in the country right now. They are 4-1. They are the team that has the most to lose this week if they go down to Wake Forest and Winston-Salem and lose. Wake Forest just knocked off NC State on the road. Wake Forest has also had a losing record against Clemson, so they have a vendetta against Clemson. They haven't beat Clemson since I think it was 2014, and fact check me if I'm wrong, but I think it's about 2014 is the last time Wake Forest beat Clemson. So this sounds like a weekend where it could be an upset in Winston-Salem, where we see Clemson just get knocked off, and then they're basically gone, and then we're down to one ACC team, like I made in my the beginning year of prediction of one team making it to the college football playoff. The ACC needs this. At the end of the day, we're going to see some really sketcy calls there in Winston-Salem.
Right.
Hopefully, Wake Forest has to blow out Clemson in order to get to, because if it's close down the end, we're going to see some, like, bro, we're on a timeout, pass interference, like type of match. But Clemson has the most to lose. I think LSU has a couple games they can really boost themselves if they go down 2 losses. So, Mike, what you got?
Yeah, so I took a similar approach to Trey, but with a different SEC team. I'm saying Tennessee has the most to lose this week. Yes, Florida has been one of the more inconsistent teams in the country this year, but looking at their schedule moving forward, if Tennessee slips up to Florida, I mean, they're coming off of a loss to Arkansas. They slip up to Florida and move to 2 losses, they still have Georgia and Alabama to play this year. Those are probably losses. I mean, it's going to be, I think they'll be good games, but if they lose one or both of those games, 3 or 4 losses in a already tight SEC is not going to put them over the top, considering it started with an unranked loss to Arkansas. So, yes, it's at home, so they should win this game, but if they somehow find themselves on, their back foot and not keeping the foot on the pedal and they slip up to Florida, it's a downhill spiral from there as far as who they got to play.
It's a tough matchup. I mean, down the road, they got to play Mississippi State at home.
Yeah.
Kentucky has been tough all year. The SEC in general has been tough. Yeah. Vanderbilt's coming off a high win right now with Alabama. They're looking pretty good this year. I mean, Vanderbilt's 3-2. I mean, they could be a 3-4 loss team maybe this year. So I can see Tennessee being. That was actually one of my games. I was like, well, Florida's. But the thing that has Tennessee's favor is Florida is. It's a home game for Tennessee, right? You're going to Florida's going to Tennessee. It's Rocky Top, right?
Yep, an old Rocky Top.
Old Rocky Top, and so I think that plays a factor a little bit. So if they lose at home, I mean, I don't know, I can't see them making the playoff. It's tough. I mean, there's a lot of teams this week. I think a lot of people are saying Ohio State and Oregon, but I think Ohio State and Oregon, if you lose to each other, it's just losing to a top-ranked team, right? To y'all boys, I mean, if you lose to them, and here's the factor that you and I always talk about. It's how you lose, right? If you lose by 30 or 40 to Oregon, or if Oregon vice versa lose 30 or 40 to you, that plays a factor. It's like, you don't deserve to be in this area. If you lose by like a field goal at the end of the game, it's a hard-fought game, great game by both teams, both duking it out to each other. Okay, now y'all are probably going to drop maybe 2 or 3 slots. And
they still may play each other again in the Big Ten Championship. But still
and have a rematch, and then maybe play each other in the playoff, right? You could have an opportunity down the road, right? So it's the margin is slim for a lot of these schools that are just on the cusp, just making themselves in there. So
the real season begins, and it's game day. So, Coach Day, let's see what you got. This is going to be the time. We've been waiting all year for this. This Oregon game. We also, of course, been waiting for the Michigan game, but this is the first big test. So let's see what you got. Because if you fall short here, where the pressure only gets more, then you start to go against your Michigan. You start to go into your Penn State game. You start to get towards the playoffs. So let's see what's going down. Chip Kelly, this is revenge time. Yeah, you used to be the Oregon guy. You were the guy who set Oregon up to be where they are. So now you take this new offense and let's see what you can do with it. Let's see if you can go up to Eugene and be dominant. Put these guys out the pasture. Honestly, I haven't been that impressed with Oregon this year. That's just a true fact. I thought Dylan Gabriel would be a little bit better coming in, and it just has not clicked in that way. I do still believe my Buckeyes have the best team of football, and tonight we're going to show that we have the best team of football. So believe that. We have the best defense in football. 8 returning starters. You add Caleb Downs. We have the best offense, the best backfield. There's no excuses here. The Buckeyes do have the fences. If not, it's going to be a long week in Columbus.
But we have to get to, because why not talk about it, right? I mean, it's already this time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
We got to talk about the top five, our top five Heisman candidates thus far in Week 7 of the college football season. Mike, who is your top five?
So, shall I go 5-1 or 1-5?
3-3.
3-3? Nice. Okay, cool. So I'll go 5-1. So at number 5 spot right now, I have freshman sensation in Alabama, Ryan Williams. I think because he's got moments behind him, he's got some Heisman moments, especially that catch against Georgia that we talked so much about. At number 4 right now, quarterback at Ole Miss, Jackson Dart. He's one of the top stat collectors in the country right now. He did have a bit of a down game when they took that loss, but I think he's looked impressive in other games and has had some big moments for them. Number 3 right now, Miami's quarterback Cam Ward. He has been impressive and did have himself a Heisman moment. Number 2, the two-way sensation in Travis Hunter out in Colorado. You can't deny he is you could say the Shohei Ohtani of college football right now, in the sense that he has the capability to do both. But my number 1 Heisman favorite right now, and I talked about him weeks ago early in the season, running back at Boise State, Ashton Jeanty. The man is running up and down the field. He's outrunning every running back in the country by, I think he's got like 350, 400 plus yards over them right now. Seemingly every week he's getting like 3 or 4 touchdowns at least. He's been super impressive. And so right now, I would give him the Heisman.
I can't give Ashton Jeanty the Heisman just because, and I wanted to put him on my list, but I can't give him the Heisman because he plays at Boise State, and he's not playing anybody good.
What did Boise State do to you? You hate
they
bluegrass?
got that blue ass field. That field annoys the hell out of me.
I hate bluegrass.
Big bluegrass. I like his running game. I think he's gonna be a solid running back in the league. But you put him in SEC play, he's not gonna have that. If you put him in the Big Ten, he's not gonna have that type of yardage, right? I think he's an elusive back and he can really go. But I mean, who have they played, right? Who has he done this against? And that's what you have to look at. I think he's a phenomenal back. And when he's up in the draft, I hope the Eagles can draft him to back up Saquon. So I'm not saying he's not a great player, but he's not going to get it because of where Boise State is playing. But when I'm going for my number 5 is going to be Cam Ward. Cam Ward, I think, is having a good year. I watched him play a couple times there. His indecisiveness to read defense, read a secondary, is starting to make me a little worried coming down the stretch in the season. Just because I feel like he's not picking up the blitz. He's not picking up guys the way you would hope to see a guy that is his 5th year and coming into Miami. I think he can turn it around. He's got a lot of time. He's got a week off this week, so we could see him boost up to the number 1 spot. But he's my 5. My number 4 is Ryan Williams of the Alabama Crimson Tide. He just looks amazing right now. I mean, he's just great. I mean, everything he's doing is just like, wow. Everything's a Heisman moment for him. And going off of that Heisman moment, we're going to go to another receiver I don't want to say it, but I have to, at the Ohio State University, and that's Jeremiah Smith. I watched that kid play last week, and granted, you guys weren't playing. Who were you playing last week? I don't even know if there's a team on the field.
Michigan State. No, Michigan State. I mean, they are. It is not.
Who's that?
Accurate.
Is that a Division III team?
But
Jeremiah Smith is something special. I mean, it's wide receiver U up there. They always talk about different schools. They do it. They do it right up there. And I as a Michigan fan, I cannot not put respect on it. He does it right. I mean, he's got what, 2 more years at Ohio State? Like, he's a freshman. Like, that's just crazy. And I don't even know who your quarterback is, but I don't think you need a good quarterback to hit him. He's going to make plays. He's number 3 on my list. Number 2, and I said this to you guys. I said it in the Urban Raj chat that we have, Trey, and I said Jalen Milroe, because of the strides that he made from last year, the decision making, obviously the Vanderbilt game. I don't think it hurts him that bad, but I think his decision making against Georgia, his decision making in the pocket to be able to pick guys apart. He's reading defenses better. He's taking care of himself on the field when he's running and scrambling. He's faster, I think he probably went from a 5.1 to a 4.45, 40-yard dash. He's just more elusive. He got himself better and got himself into probably top 5 quarterback draft talk, right? So, but my number one, and I'm going to stick with my guns, is going to be Travis Hunter. He is consistently playing over 130 snaps per game. He is constantly doing it. And they keep talking, and they compare my boy, and I hate that I'm shitting on Michigan, but he's comparing him to Charles Woodson. Charles Woodson didn't play that many snaps on each side. I mean, yeah, he was a receiver sometimes, but he was mainly defensive back. So he played on the other side. But the thing with Charles Woodson, he played everywhere. He returned. He was on the special teams. He was everywhere. So that's what made him elusive. And I'm not knocking Charles. See what up. But I'm saying Travis Hunter just because of what he's doing at such a high level. I mean, he's now playing in the Big 12, which is a Power 5 conference, which is against big good opponents, and he's making good plays. He's having Heisman Run, block kicks, pick sixes, doing things that you would hope a Heisman Trophy winner. He should be holding up that trophy. If he consistently has this, I'll be honest, Trey. You and I agreed on this. I did not expect him to be healthy at this point in the year. But he is, and he's doing well. He's taking care of his body. He goes through his workout routine. He's consistent with everything. He wants this Heisman, and he wants a championship for Colorado. So shout out to Travis Hunter. He is going to be the Heisman Trophy winner, in my opinion, from here on out if he consistently stays that way. Trey.
So, be honest, I didn't even put 5 people on the list. I just, just like sometimes in New York.
Jeremiah Smith.
No, and actually, shockingly to y'all, Jeremiah Smith is not actually on my list. I don't have Jeremiah Smith or Ryan Williams because at the end of the day, both are good and both are going to be amazing. Both probably will show up for that award and maybe not win the award, but be in New York at some point in their near future, maybe next year or the year after. But basically, for me, I went number 4. I went Milroe. To me, it's hard to go put 2 people on the same team. I mean, you have like a Bush Liner, so I had to go to quarterback in this case. Not always going to go to quarterback, but the difference in gap that he's jumped, as John has said, has made all the difference. Not saying that Ryan Williams isn't important, but Jalen Milroe, whether it's been using legs, whether it's been quick decision making, he's been all the difference there. Yes, it goes down a little bit because of the Vanderbilt. He probably will boost back up. For now, I'll put him at 4. If you'd asked me last week, he would have been higher, but, this is a moving board. At 3, I would put Genty from Boise State. His stats are crazy. When they even show his comparison, I think he was at like over 1,000 yards at this point, where they show like Derrick Henry, I think was the last running back to win a Heisman, and he was at like 600 at the same point. But again, to the point earlier that John made, the reason I can't play him at the top, he plays for Boise State. There's no offense to Boise State, but it's a different ball game if he had already had to go play, let's say, Georgia, or even if he had to go play, I don't know, even Oklahoma State or something. But who has he played? So I will give him his props, but I can't go but so far with that. So I'll put him at 3. He would deserve to go to New York. At 2, I'm gonna put Cam Moore. Culture changer. It's not just about the stats. Everybody had Miami dead in the water. The biggest change there is they went out and got that veteran, and he changed the entire locker room. He changed the scope of the program. And sometimes his biggest stats are having a leader and somebody gives you hope has to value a certain amount of something. There's a certain amount of hope and a swagger that Miami's playing with that they just haven't had recently. A lot of times, why? Because they had all these guys where it was I can't think of the other guy. I'm blanking on this guy's name. He was at Ohio State for a quick second. Tate Martell. Where they had these guys like Tate Martell and these guys that were supposed to bring this swagger and it didn't work out. This is the first time in a long time Miami can look at the leader and say, he's got us. We feel like we got a shot in every game. At 1, I'm going to go Travis Hunter because at the end of the day, the guy is right now probably playing as a top 3 corner and probably a top 5 receiver. It's hard to be top 5 in any one position, let alone be top 5 in 2 different positions in the game. And again, yes, Charles Woodson, he did play. He did a wonderful job. He played both sides, but he wasn't playing 130 fucking snaps when Charles Woodson was doing this. That's not shade to Charles Woodson. I'm amazed that Travis Hunter's been able to keep this pace the way he has. And it's not like he's doing this shit at fucking Central Michigan, and he's playing against MAC competition. He's doing this shit in the Big 12, and he's still out here. It's not like he's getting tired. It's not like we get to the 4th quarter, you see him with his hands on his knees. I look across the field, and the other receiver looks tapped out, and this dude looks like he's ready to go play 2 more football games. So when you look at an X factor, the stats equal it. He has the Heisman moments. He has the storyline, the need. It's not like Colorado is this super talented team. When you look at it, yeah, it's Travis Hunter right now. Would be the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, I've been following him on social media and just how he takes care of himself, and they've been obviously he has his own podcast and he's not going out. He's not partying. He's home every single night. He's making sure his grades are good. I mean, obviously we say that grades don't matter, but he's actually focusing on school, because he wants to be more than just football, right? And that's cool to see out of a guy that's trying to do something in the NFL, but also probably do something on the side. He knew that from day one. Now with Travis Hunter, he's also taking care of his body. He's doing a treatment every single day. He's making sure he's in the training room. He's working out. He's making sure he's staying in that mode. And to your point, I mean, it was a fourth quarter. I think it was a minute left. He's bouncing around on the sideline, bouncing.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, I'd be in the blue tent. I'd be in the blue tent, be like, yo, IV, bro, IV, please, hook it up. So, yeah, I mean, I can't deny that. I mean, and to your point, I had to ask Sean Jetney at 6 just because of the Boise State. He had Alabama doing this. He winning it. He already given the award. He already done.
Yeah.
These numbers, yeah.
Yeah. So he's already won it. So, let us know in the comments who your top 5 Heisman are. Obviously, it's what Stephen A would say. Fluid. It's fluid. We got fluid, baby. We got fluid.
Baby.
All right. So, we got 5 games in college football. This is the biggest week. We've circled it all year. This is the biggest week in college football. We're gonna go through this. We're gonna read the game prediction. Who's going to win this weekend? So we're going to kind of go through. We got 5
Are we
games
doing
in
scores
college.
too?
What's that?
Are we doing scores too? Or are we just giving predictions of winner?
We're going to do prediction and scores. We're going to try to see who gets closer. Just in case we have a tie and stump the squad. So this will actually work out perfectly. So we'll go through. We got 5 games in college football. We got Texas, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Oregon, Ole Miss, LSU, Penn State, USC, and Kansas State, Colorado. So, gentlemen, Texas versus Oklahoma, the Red River rivalry. Who do you got, Trey Day?
Texas 37, Oklahoma 20.
Texas 56, Oklahoma 6.
Whew. Texas 35, Oklahoma 28.
Ohio State, Oregon. Trey Day?
Ohio State 34, Oregon 24.
Ohio State 21, Oregon 18.
Ohio State 40, Oregon 21.
Ole Miss versus LSU.
Ole Miss 31, LSU 27.
LSU 35, Ole Miss 14.
Ole Miss 34, LSU 31.
Penn State versus USC. Penn State, man. I can't with Penn State, man. All right. This is by Grandpa Jay, by the way. This is Grandpa Jay's contribution to the show. Is he picked the 5 games. So Penn State, USC. Going to USC.
Okay, so USC 23, Penn State 17.
USC 30, Penn State 28.
Penn State 17, USC 14.
In our last game, we were talking about him. Is he going to have another Heisman moment? Kansas State versus Colorado.
Okay, I got Colorado 47, Kansas State 41 in overtime.
Ooh.
Colorado, damn, I have overtime too. Damn. Colorado 35, Kansas State 28 in overtime. I had overtime. I was like, damn.
I'll be slightly different. Colorado 38, Kansas State 31.
All right, those are our top 5. Those are our top 5 games of the week in college football. Let us know what you guys think on this. And who are we crazy? Am I crazy to say Texas is going to blow out Oklahoma? We just watched it with freaking Tennessee. Come on now. Tennessee went
like that. That's one of those ones, when you go to like a Wikipedia page, they have like a special section for certain games.
Yeah.
This going to have like a nickname. If that game turns out 56-6, it would be like the Red River Massacre. So it will have a nickname. That game.
Well, let's get to it. We're missing our 4th amigo, so let's get to it. We got to go to Stump the Squad. I can't talk as fast as Jay, but make sure you guys are tuning in. If you guys are playing along, give yourself -2 if you get it wrong, +2 if you get it right. And of course, at the end of this, we will crown our third Stump the Squad champion of who was first? Dre Day, and Grandpa Jay was our dramatic comeback in the second one. We're starting our third round of this. Let us know in the comments if you got all of our questions right. So I'm going to throw it over to Mikey Mike. Mike, take it away.
I'm actually glad you threw it over to me. This transitions well from what we were just discussing because, gentlemen, one of the most storied rivalries in college football gets played this week. It's the Red River rivalry, Oklahoma and Texas. So many games they've played against each other. So many great games. So, tell me, how many times has the Red River rivalry game ended in a tie?
Oh, Jesus.
1, 2, 3, or 4?
3.
My first mine was 3. I'm going to stay with 3.
Okay. Both of you agreeing with 3 to open up Stump the Squad. I like it. This week, I have successfully stumped the squad twice.
Damn, twice.
God damn
Yeah, I'm in the lead.
it. With 0.
Let's see. Who are we going to throw it to? You know what? I will throw it over to the other side of the room, which isn't that far. John, go ahead.
Where are you? All right, I'm going to take it to the diamond. So, who is the only pitcher to win a 1-0 World Series complete game twice? Was it A, Art Neff, B, Roy Halladay, C, Kurt Schilling, D, Roger Clemens?
Holiday.
As much as I don't like the man himself, I will say Kurt Schilling.
Today I have successfully stumped the squad.
Yeah, it is.
It is Art Neff with the New York Giants.
I should have guessed the random old name.
I know I thought random. I said it's probably
man, I really didn't know who else to throw in there for names. So I was like, let me throw in 3 new guys and let's see if they get it right. So the scores now read me at -2, Mike at -2, and Trey at -4. So our actual tiebreaker might come into fruition for this. So go ahead, Trey Day. Trey Day feels like
okay.
you
So
threw it to me.
we're going to take this to Ohio State and Oregon.
Oh boy.
What do you mean? Great series. How many carries did Zeke Elliott and Cardell Jones combine for an Ohio State's championship game win over the Oregon Ducks in the first ever college football playoff championship game?
Of course, we got to bring that up, right?
2 weeks in a row, bro? He did with Urban Raj last week with the Bama one, and
I'm sensing a pattern.
What's next week, bro?
Don't worry,
What is Ohio State's record
You'll
against
have Ohio
State?
State's next fact next week when we get there. But in simple terms, how many combined carries does Zeke and Cardell have in the championship game?
What's
41, 49, 57, 63.
49.
That's what I was going to say. 57.
Okay, so we're going with a 49. We're going to 57.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whose gut is right? We do have a winner today.
Oh.
And today's winner, trusting her gut, lucky number 7, that would be Mike. It's 57.
Yes! Let's go. I trusted the 7 and it didn't let me down.
I know. Your ass trusts a 7 every single time. I think this
Finally worked.
This is the first time in like 89 tries that it's
But he
worked.
almost, if he went first, he was about to go 49. So he almost didn't.
Yeah, exactly. I almost didn't. And then
We almost had a 3-way tie. So Mike is Stump the Squad winner, episode 132. So that brings our scoreboard to all 3 of you at 2, and I'm at 1.
No, I was already at 2. I now take the lead with 3, Jamie at 2, and then you guys at 1.
Damn it, Trey. We got to make a dramatic comeback here. So, obviously, we are missing a key part of this show as well. Grandpa Jay, Grandpa Jesus, whoever, Caribbean Jesus, Roman Reigns, whoever you want to call him. Seth Rollins.
He's gotten that recently.
We're missing him. We're wishing him nothing but safety.
Yes.
In this time, he is fighting out the Milton in fighting Milton.
No, I would love to see Jamie fight the Hurricane. That'd be great.
But make sure you guys are tuning into our socials. We're going to be active all weekend. Still got great college football. It's a great weekend for NFL, which we didn't talk about today too much, but we have great college football games, great NFL games. It is heating up in sports. The MLB Playoffs is on. NHL is back up and running. Mike and I got to embrace the banner night for the first time, which was awesome last night. Make sure you tune into our story and our socials at Cinco Squad Pod 05. And best of luck to Trey's Buckeyes this weekend. Trey, any final thoughts on the Buckeyes before they head into this big weekend?
Big week. It has been literally circled since last year. This has been a circle game. Everybody's been waiting for this. In general, all these teams this week, there was a lot of big matchups, and everybody kept saying October 12th. Don't plan anything. Don't have any weddings. If you got a birthday, move it to the 13th. Do whatever you got to do. But October 12th, everybody should be locked in. That's whether you're a Buckeyes fan, Duckies fan, whatever you want to call those guys over there. Be locked in. There's a lot of other good football games going on too.
So make sure you guys tune in. We'll be back here next week, episode 133. We'll see you guys here next week. Cinco Squad out.